This is the Personnel Committee meeting on Tuesday, August 20th at just about 5:15 PM. I will do roll call. Alder Johnson.
Here.
Alder Grant.
Here.
Alder Hinkfist.
Here.
And Alder Galvin is present. I'll entertain a motion on the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It passes unanimously. I'll entertain a motion on the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. On to regular business. Item 1, consideration with possible action on the request to fill the following positions and all subsequent vacancies resulting from internal transfers. We have a recreation coordinator and a laborer for sanitation.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that passes unanimously. Number 2, consideration with possible action to enter into an agreement with Associated Bank for the city's third-party administrator to administer health reimbursement accounts, flexible spending accounts, health savings accounts, and insurance continuation through COBRA starting January 1st, 2025. Does anyone have any questions for staff?
Just a question. Joe, this feels like third time in maybe as many years. Now, I see that this is recommended for a 3-year agreement, which I like, but is there a reason why we keep changing?
Well, I think the first group we had was, I'm trying to think of their name, was Benefit Advantage, and then they got acquired, so we went to Task, and then we switched to EDC after that. So that's kind of why we had some changes. There's more of a transition issue with the acquisition. This is more of just a, I guess, reduction in cost and more services for going to Associated Bank.
I just want to make sure we're not missing anything on our analysis that's prompting us to maybe make bad decisions. And I'm not suggesting that's what's happened,
Yeah.
right? But just, I think it's our job to ask the question, so.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good decision, and we have reps from Associated Bank here if you want to ask them any questions.
Yeah, you guys want to talk?
You want to talk?
I really don't have any questions.
Yeah, I would make a motion to open the floor to hear from interested parties.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that passes unanimously. The floor is open. If you would approach the table, please. Just if you would state your name and your address, please.
My name is Ken Nimmer. My address 754 West Wind Court, Pier, Wisconsin, 54115.
The other two gentlemen.
Dennis Deloy with Associated Bank. Address is 1162 Brookwood Drive, Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Joe Hockers, 2903 Valley Bunyan Lane in Jennifer's district.
No pressure.
All right, Brian.
Yeah, floor's yours.
Yeah, we just wanted to thank you for the opportunity. I'm the president for Associated Bank in this area of our footprint, so the northeastern part of the state, and we appreciate the opportunity. We really enjoy being headquartered here for the last 160 plus years and taking care of customers here. And Ken and Joe specialize in government banking and HSAs, and you will be well taken care of.
So if we had a contingency on here that says you will remain headquartered here for the next 160 years.
Can you do that?
I don't know. I'll find out. You do anything until the lawyers say no.
Very much be in favor of that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
And we're moving from benefits administrator to Associated Bank. And do you have areas within there that do flex spending now, or? I mean, HRA is pretty easy. The flex spending is a little different.
So what makes Associated Bank more unique than some of the previous vendors is we have a consolidated platform for HSAs and FSAs. So if you look at the benefit to the employees, it's a single debit card, single support team, a single administrator, single feed. So there's some efficiencies that's part of the process. We go back to 2003 with the HSA. We've actually grown to become the country's 12th largest administrator of that. Just 4 years ago, we were 18th. And it's all because of how we take care of our clients. So there are some efficiencies gains, but really what sparked the conversation was the interest in promoting the HSA. Today, employees go anywhere to get their HSA, which oftentimes means employees don't know what they don't know. And so by leveraging a platform that can allow them to invest, leverage educational resources, what we've seen is a spike in participation, contributions, which is good for the employee and good for the entity. So that's what really started the whole conversation and what got us to this point today.
Great. Any other questions?
We're good. Thanks, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Motion to close the floor?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And the floor is closed.
Yep.
Thank you.
I like it. Look, even if these, even if they were a little bit more, I'd still support this because I think anytime you have that opportunity to support a local company, you know, you take care of them, they take care of you kind of thing. So I would make a motion to approve this.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes unanimously.
Yes, just so that you're aware, this goes to City Council for final approval next week. So,
Thank you all.
Thank you.
On to item number 3. Consideration with possible action to amend the City of Green Bay Personnel Policy, Chapter 11, regarding reimbursements for meals, telephone, public transportation, and city vehicle use. Any questions for staff?
I was actually surprised to see we weren't already tied to that, so motion to approve.
Second.
After going on a few trips for the PD and the loopholes we used to have to jump through, yeah, this is very good.
I will get less complaints.
I'll bet. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Item number 4, consideration with possible action to amend the City of Green Bay Personnel Policy, Chapter 9, regarding hours of work and core hours. I know there's people here that are interested in addressing the committee, so I would entertain a motion to open the floor.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. If anyone in the public would like to address this committee, please step forward.
Mark Berglund, 806 North Broadway. I have reviewed this proposal to make City Hall's summer schedule a year-round schedule. Then I shared this proposal with my 54 non-exempt coworkers. We unanimously agree this proposal should not be implemented. I have also contacted my counterparts at the Department of Public Works. They're also talking to their non-exempt coworkers. The initial reaction is that they are against this proposed change also. One of the reasons this proposal was to improve the morale of the people that work at City Hall. I have no doubt it would do exactly that. How many people does that affect? I don't know. But what I do know is it would be a morale killer for possibly 300 to 400 employees that get zero benefit out of this. The fact that City Hall workers already have a policy of remote work or work from home that again, possibly the 300 to 400 non-exempt employees cannot take advantage of, gives us the feeling that the haves are getting more and the have-nots get no more benefit. These 300 to 400 people are the ones that you see every day on our streets and in our parks, taking care of our fine city. My personal opinion on remote work is we shouldn't have any. Call me old school, but I believe every employee has an obligation to their employer to show up for work every day and not phone it in or email it in. That's already implemented, and it's really hard to take away a benefit when it's already been granted. I am aware some people may not appreciate this opinion, but I am appreciative that I have an opportunity to express my opinion to this committee and that you'll at least hear me. Another reason for this proposal is to increase accessibility for the public. There has to be other ways to accomplish this, like have City Hall be open from 7:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Even more accessibility for the public. Isn't that one of the reasons to work for a municipality? To serve the public? And for the City Hall employees, they could possibly work 4 10-hour days. Half of the staff works Monday through Thursday, the other half of the staff would work Tuesday through Friday. That to me is a win-win situation. More accessibility for the public, 3-day weekends for the city hall employees. I do believe there are some departments that have some crews work this schedule. Department of Public Works, maybe, I'm not sure. And lastly, park maintenance workers, some of them, do have half days on Friday. Because in the summer, they work Monday through Thursday, 8-hour days, and on Friday, they work a 4-hour day. Because on Saturday, to finish their 40-hour work week, they have to report to Bay Beach to clean bathrooms, empty garbage cans, pick litter. So this proposal is particularly insulting to them. And the people that do that told me, so I'm just reiterating what they said. We have always believed that the city strives to treat all employees equally and fairly. This only increases the disparity because of the building you happen to work in. So in closing, we respectfully urge this committee to take a good look at this. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Berglund?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Mark?
Is there anyone else that would like to address the committee? I'll take a motion to close the floor.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. All right, gang. Your thoughts?
Take a stab at it.
Alderman
So,
Johnson?
Mark, I appreciate the comments as always. You're always very articulate and thoughtful. And I think this might be one of those rare occasions that you and I maybe don't align. And what I mean by that is I think rather than looking at how do we treat people equally, I think we have to really assess the job that they're doing. I think it's less about the building and more about the job that they do. And, you know, obviously, you know, our parks crew can't really work from home, right? They have to be where the parks are. You know, and the nature of the work that our folks at City Hall do allow that workplace flexibility. But, and in fact, there's research that directly ties to work from home actually leads to people working more hours. And one could argue that working from home is maybe a detriment to our staff. But, you know, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. But the one concern, though, that I do share, Mark, with you is the accessibility. And I think my one concern, and I really want to hear the staff's response to this, is I think you know by having City Hall open fewer hours, I think it does reduce your accessibility to the public. And I want to know if there's been any type of outreach conducted to better understand the impact that might have to our constituents. And when I say constituents, the people that use City Hall services the most. So think about like somebody coming in for a building permit or something like that. So so that's my just initial question. I'll let you respond to that, Joe.
Yeah, we have the same amount of hours, so we extended a half hour an hour Monday through Thursday, so it's still 40 hours a week. It's not less hours of service, it's just extended Monday through Thursday. And then we have not, I guess, reached out to specific customers or community members, but we have reached out to other municipalities, and they've said that they've had zero issues with the public with these same schedule with other municipalities.
There are issues that have been maybe communicated, right? It's
Possibly.
Yeah.
And we've also had, I think, very little issues with their summer schedule as well.
Yeah. You know, and I think back, Joe, you know, when I used to work at the chamber, we did summer hours. And but that said, staff was allowed to take advantage of summer hours, but it was an option, not a requirement. And then the other piece of it was we all had to take a turn on staffing that front area to ensure that the hours that we were open to the public were not diminished. So I get your point, total number of hours, but certainly the number of, of days is reduced. So curious if you guys have given any contemplation to what that might look like,
What do you mean by that?
where we still stay open on Friday afternoons,
see.
but like we find a way to staff it, you know what I mean? Even if it's on a rotational basis, but the bottom line is that it creates flexibility for staff to take advantage of a policy, but also keeps City Hall open more consistently.
Yeah, so we have some departments that do that, like Human Resources, we do that throughout the year. Other departments, I think, have a harder time doing that because of the size of their department. And one of the responses we got was they just wanted consistent hours of when we're open and when we're closed, because if some departments can't do what HR does, where we have half of the employees here on Friday and half that are not, or excuse me, half have a half day and half do not, then they feel like that's inconsistent, whereas if we're closed at 11:30 for everyone, it's easier to staff across the board.
Have you, I'm curious if we made any headway on some of the discussion we've had previously about, sort of the way we assess the facility, right? And part of that was looking at the first floor and almost creating like a customer service experience center, where maybe you have individuals that are staffed there. At least that's what I would love to at least have considered,
Yep.
right? As a staff person that can handle permits, that can handle parking tickets and XYZ. Is there any progress being made on that front? Because what's going through my head, Joe, is just the timing of something like this might align better once we can create that experience where we can then staff it and not have to see that, Friday afternoons eliminated.
Yeah, I think the process is that there's construction on the first floor, which you've all seen. So that room is under construction right now. That's kind of the first start of it. But I think maybe what's being missed a little bit is that all of our services are provided online. So like there aren't a lot of people actually coming into the building, and we don't have the data on the foot traffic. But if you're here Friday afternoon during the fall, winter, or spring, it's very dead. There aren't a whole lot of people walking in and actually getting services in person. So when we say that we're closed Friday afternoon, we're closed to the public to physically access the city hall, but you can get services from City Hall administrative staff 24/7 for almost 99% of what we offer. So we're closed, but you can still go on your computer or any electronic device and get services from City Hall. So that's kind of the main focus of this, is it's not so much that your services are limited, they're not. You can access all of our services, it's just the physical access is being cut off and stopped at 11:30 a.m. And we don't have a lot of foot traffic Friday afternoon anyway.
Okay.
I guess one of the first things, and maybe Mayor, this is for you, but ultimately, we work for the people of the city of Green Bay. They pay our bills, they pay our taxes, they pay everything. I mean, first CEO I worked for said, "Who's your customer?" And that's what you're here for, is to serve your customer. You don't serve your customer, you don't have income coming in. So service is really critical to me, and the perception of the city shutting down year-round on Friday afternoons, I think, is extremely negative. I think alternate work schedules can be achieved without shutting City Hall down, period. 4 10s, 9, there's so many different ways leaders can work around this, and I don't know if they need permission from us or not. But I cannot support shutting City Hall down for people of Green Bay.
Yeah, since you kind of invoked my name, I'm happy to answer. I don't know if you're aware, but Brown County has adopted this schedule. Every urbanized municipality within the county has adopted this schedule. So we're not at all an outlier. I think just to reinforce what Director Folds was saying, it's the same hours being worked, the same number of hours in terms of accessibility to the public. One thing that we have definitely heard is that from contractors in particular, they like being able to come to City Hall very early in the morning to get their workday started off with whatever they might need to do. So that's a real advantage of starting earlier on during the day. The other thing that I would say, just in response to Mark, to reiterate what Alder Johnson said, it is not my goal, it's not the city's goal to treat every employee identically. It really is
No,
not.
I'm not even, that's not even part of my consideration.
Right.
It's
It is
the perception of
really
the
to treat
taxpayers.
every employee fairly within the confines of their responsibilities, right? So what we've stressed over the last few years in particular is to maximize flexibility wherever possible. And this is a real, retention and attraction tool, especially when you talk about who our peers are, who our competitors are as employers, and that is all the municipalities within this region, right? It's obviously the county as well. So, you can certainly make strong statements, like that. I just want you to recognize that it's maybe a little bit more complicated than, who's best serving the public.
I understand that, Eric. And I was just at a meeting this afternoon for a board meeting. And I was talking to a prior supervisor, and he was talking about the county being closed. And somebody piped up and said, and the city's closed, because we can never get a hold of them on Friday afternoons. So there's definitely, at least in my experience over the years, you shut things down on Friday, and when things go haywire, there's nobody here for it. And you have employees that are out there working day in and day out that aren't eligible. So I guess, why do we have to have a policy of closing the city where you could just cover those areas and change the work
We're
schedule?
not closing the city. This is a building.
Right, well, you're closing City Hall. So, and to me, it's a perception.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine if you want to have a discussion about perception. I'm more interested in reality, but that's fine.
Well,
Just, go ahead, Alder Eck.
I just have a question, and I'm kind of indifferent on it, as far as the whole changing the hours. But was there like some kind of survey done with the employees on this to see what their thoughts were about it?
There was not, and, I'd say, since we implemented summer hours, and it was in 2019, this summer, I've had people come up to me for 4 or 5 years asking us to go with summer hours all year round. And we've had department supervisors kind of poll their own employees and ask if they wanted to go to it. And for the most part, the majority of employees want to have this year round. The employees that have concerns about it are employees that typically have kids in school or childcare. And those employees that have concerns, if you told them they can flex their hours throughout the day and get their 40 in with City Hall closing at 11:30 on Friday, they were okay with it. So there's very few people that are against having summer hours all year round.
Okay, thank you.
So when we say City Hall closes, that means if I call it 3:55 on Friday afternoon, I'm going to get someone to answer the phone. It's just the building's closed?
No,
So I'm getting no answer.
that's correct.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've got an email right here from a constituent. I took your advice and filled out the online police form today. It was a pain in the you-know-what. It wanted more information about me than I was trying to report, but I filled it out anyway because when I tried the phone system, that was just as bad. And I get this a lot, not just on the PD, but on other things. I get frustrated myself when I call, and I don't know if the person I'm calling to is working from home, because I don't get an answer, I get an answering machine, or are they actually at work in a meeting, or are they on vacation because it doesn't say. And then when you don't get a call back within 24 hours, that's when you start getting a little bit steamed, and you gotta start making more phone calls. There used to be a time when you could call the PD and get someone at the front desk from morning and afternoon. Now you get Brown County Dispatch, which 99% of the population doesn't understand. And they gotta go through a phone tree. They should be picking number 8, but they don't know that. And they get very frustrated. Now this lady's calling to complain about kids on mopeds driving through a park at high speeds. They're there for 15 minutes and they're gone. She's complained twice through the online system and still hasn't gotten a response from anybody. And she's wondering if she should start calling 911. And I get other complaints about this. They call DPW, they call parks, they call this, they call that. There's no response. Or they go online and they fill in a request for service and they don't get a response back. Sometimes things happen that let them know someone got it, but no response. They're like, hey, we got your email. There's nothing we can do, or yes, we're taking care of it. So I can understand some of the frustration. I like the idea better of 4 10-hour days and a 3-day weekend. But I understand people have kids in school. I mean, you're never going to get 100% of the people like any of the schedules, no matter how you offer it to them. But I understand the park department employees. We say we're trying to retain employees. But at the same time, this group is feeling like, is there something you can do for us in the future? And I understand that the park department, DPW, do have this summer hour program. But I'm sure they're saying, why can't we do that year round?
Well, I guess maybe just talk about that. I think their hours are 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. I mean, their hours are different than City Hall
Yep.
employees. We're 8 to 4:30,
Yep.
8 to 5 p.m. So there's already discrepancy with what they do, so.
Right, exactly. Every job requires, I mean, it's like you're gonna tell cops that you can work when you want to, take a break in the middle of the day for 2 hours to go to your kid's concert. You know, I mean, it doesn't work out like that. And you can't do that with firemen and several other employees. I guess I'm hearing what the representative for the park employees is saying, and it resonates. And I hear about us closing down, and it resonates. Look, as an employee at the PD, I had what I call an admin job. And you were allowed to flex your hours. The chief just said, you gotta give me 8 hours, 8.5 hours, or there's gonna be a problem. But we were able to flex our hours. And while I enjoyed that, I also understood how the guys on the road wearing a uniform would resent that, because they had to work 8.5, and it had to be between this time and that time, and if they wanted off, they had to burn vacation and, and or sick time or whatever it took. So I understand what we're trying to do. I understand we're trying to retain employees, and we're having a tough time doing that. But I also am hearing what he has to say and what the people he represents are feeling. And so I'm kind of in a toss-up. And I don't like our building being closed. Not when people are expecting to get services. Because let's face it, where does it say that we're only open till, noon on Friday, 11 o'clock?
I think it's on our door and our website.
Okay, so someone comes here, goes to come in the door, bang. That's how they find out. That's not gonna make them happy. They go to our website, if they can get to our website and figure it out and see what the hours are. Not everybody is computer savvy. And they have a difficult time, even like this lady said, going through our complaint process. And I know we've spent a lot of time and money trying to make it easier and better, and I think it has improved. But again, I can understand the concerns of the people that we represent.
Yeah, I think we had these same concerns with summer hours, and I think the first summer we had some questions or concerns about it, but we haven't in about 2, 3, 4 years about the summer hour schedule.
Alder Grant?
Have we come up with a plan though about property tax time? And, go ahead, sorry.
No, we have not officially, but that's something I'll work with Director Ellenbecker on doing that. So some municipalities, they are open for tax collection on those days, and some close, and we can just decide what we want to do with that. But I think we talked about earlier this year to stay open for tax collection.
Okay. Yeah, to be honest, I'm torn on this. I absolutely see both sides. I see the perception. I see how, I even remember when we talked about the work from home policy, when we had to debate if we were going to keep that in effect after COVID was done. And I know how, I did bring up resentment at that point too, and I still feel that could affect this as well. And I will say, I actually had a compliment on our request for service. They did get a call shortly after submitting it. So I think I've really been encouraging our residents to use the request for service. So I do want to say good job with that. I think it is educating and teaching them how to use it though. If we did this, I would like to see, and again, I don't know how we do this, a phone number that is live until 4 o'clock on Friday that, I don't know if it goes to department heads, something that you are home, but your phone's forwarded. I don't like the idea that there is no one to contact and no answers, because from Friday afternoon to Monday can be a long period of time for a resident that might need something. And yeah, I worry about that. So I don't know if it makes sense to refer to staff and see if there's options or different ideas of how we can either stagger schedules, have a phone number, or do we have staff not implement this yet, but for the next month or two, track how many calls, how many foot traffic did we get on Fridays between 11:30 and 4? I think it's hard for us to make an educated decision on this without more data, more feedback. I mean, I would like time to hear from residents, hear from employees, to kind of really make a good.
But they're still on summer hours, so.
Right,
Yeah.
but it ends Labor Day weekend, correct? So we're 2
We're
weeks
zooming
away,
in pretty quick.
a week and a half away. So, I mean, the reality is they haven't had these hours, so if they have to wait 2 more months for us to analyze if this is a good move or not, they haven't had them to begin with. So, I would like to see a little bit more feedback I don't know if it's worth doing a survey to staff, track how much business we see through that, and find out if we can come up with, either department heads or staff, what other options we can give our residents if we're not physically here.
Yeah, and one thing too, I guess I would caution is, I don't think we'd want the public to kind of have schedules and hours that really flip-flop, because right now Friday afternoons are closed at City Hall. I don't think we'd want to have a month or two where it's, open and then it goes back to close, so that's just something to think about. Not that, I'd like to postpone it, but I think if we do go that route, we probably want to have more of a start date, later than a month or 2 months later, to avoid confusion. I mean, and I think it depends when you talk about requests for service or certain calls that need immediate response. I mean, I think we do have people that are on call with either Public Works or Parks, where if there's immediate response we need, like a tree's down or something's in the road, we do have people on call that do respond to those. So it's.
Who do you call?
What?
Who do you call?
Do we have a general line, I believe, that we call?
Because not everyone has the, I know that sounds crazy, but I do have some older residents that don't have the internet or computer.
Yep.
And
Well,
so the
it's-
request for service is an option for them.
I know there's an on-duty DPW worker, but I have
What do they
no,
call
the only way
them?
I know how to get a hold of them is through the shift commander. Now, the only way you get a hold of the shift commander now is to call and leave a number and hope he answers and listens to the message, but that may not be for a while. And I've tried to do it through the Brown County, and they have no idea what I'm talking about. So, I mean,
I don't,
and we're not Brown County, I understand that, that's a different entity, but this is part of the problem. But Mayor?
Well, I was just gonna say, I mean, we don't have summer hours at PD, so, like, I think we need to focus in on like what
Right.
the issue is and whether or not we're in support or opposed to it.
You're right.
I think, I think Director Foltz makes a good point in terms of timing. I think we would probably have to wait another season to implement if people wanted to delay now, or that would be what I would recommend anyway. In terms of a survey, I think it makes sense to, kind of formally survey City Hall employees, but I'm not in favor of kind of a citywide survey, right? Because it really doesn't affect the job or the work of people outside of City Hall.
What about a service survey though, customer service?
Okay.
I mean,
Well,
where
again,
we're
that's
not,
beyond what we're talking about. I don't think there's any issue, I don't have any issue with doing a survey among residents in terms of how we can improve services. But that's not specifically related to our hours of operation. We're currently partnered
I
up
think
with,
it is, but yeah.
with Bloomberg, Johns Hopkins on a project to really improve how requests for service functions, both for the public, but also in terms of how we improve performance here within City Hall. So, I mean, it's something that we're always focused on and interested in doing. When we get into these discussions, it sort of goes all over the place
True.
rather than directly to the issue that we're talking about.
So if we surveyed residents of this city, do you want City Hall open between these hours, or are you okay with it being closed? Do you think that would be important to get feedback on that?
I don't know if you get a pure response.
it'd be really hard to get a ballot
Yeah.
sample.
Meaning, I think you'd get perhaps folks that really don't like it that would coalesce around.
Whether they're gonna ever ask for services on a Friday or not.
Right, they're just gonna say, no, I don't like it, or sometimes it's perception, right? So my point is, I don't know that you get really pure data out of something like that, but
well, that's where I'd like to track foot traffic and phone calls. I mean, it's almost like it's natural. It's not, in my opinion, it's not forced, it's how do we function at a normal workday per season?
So you'd like to track, what, for 6 months?
I know they don't want to delay, but
On that real quick, I think it makes more sense to actually track the phone calls coming in during summer hours on the afternoon of a Friday, instead of tracking phone calls like during the normal schedule, because people know that
Right.
City Hall is open, right? And
Right,
when they're calling
that's-
during the summer, they don't know apparently, because they're calling in the afternoon of a Friday. I think that gives you a more valid
Right.
understanding.
the reason I say track it, because in the summer, even residents operate differently. We're out of town, going up north, so we may not need service because we're not here ourselves. But during the winter months, we have, a lot of visitors coming, tourists, things happening in our city that I think it's a different season. We function different during the those months. So that's where it's hard.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that, it's just like, but we're open, so that's why people expect us to be open. You know, it's kind of hard to do that experiment.
So you watch the video of how many times does someone come up to the door on a Friday afternoon and pull on it? That's one.
Yeah.
How many phone calls do you have that someone left a message and said, I need some kind of service, please get back to me? And then see, you know, that way you know what department it's coming from and how many they're coming. Alder Heck.
Yeah, so I think there's something to be said for consistency. I think people get used to something and then it changes, so right now it's inconsistent. Again, I don't really have an opinion one way or the other, I'm just kind of looking at all the angles, but I do know that sometimes when we change it, then that makes it harder than if we were consistent year-round. People would get used to it.
That's true.
One of the things, Joe, that I asked for was departments that would be impacted, services that wouldn't be available, and if I remember correctly, you sent me an email,
Yep, I did.
and which employees would not be working?
So it was in
Which
our community economic
concerns-
development department, our inspectors. So our inspectors
Yes.
typically work, I think it's around 7 to 3, Monday through Friday. So summer hours, they then don't do inspections in the afternoon, they do it in the morning. So that's how their inspections would be Friday morning, set up between 7 and 3.
And the contractors would, they don't do anything in the afternoon? I mean,
I don't think we've had any issues, you know.
Right, I mean, I think one of the pluses with the summer schedule was that, or even looking at it year-round, I mean, as a customer, if I have to do something at City Hall and I work, and City Hall's open from 8 to 5, I gotta take a lunch hour, or I gotta try to figure out how to get to do my stuff here, where when we have those extra time in the morning or in the afternoon, there's actually more customer service if you're doing walk-ins during that Monday through Thursday and then Friday morning. Our contractors start early, because contractors start
Yep,
early in
that
the
I-
field, so they're out doing inspections probably by 7 o'clock, they're coming in doing paperwork, and they're out in the field. From my discussions with the inspectors, it seems like the teams work hard and then maybe leave early Friday, but they're getting 40 hours in by that time. We haven't had issues with permits, we're trying to get a lot of that online, people can get their permits online. And our planning, really, you have to talk to a planner, you have to set up an appointment, or, so there are some walk-ins for planners, but for the most part, that's kind of coordinated more so.
so ultimately, you could still give alternate work schedules, just not close City Hall. I mean, I don't know how we couldn't achieve the same thing without having to close on Friday. Meaning you wouldn't get every Friday off, but you might get Monday off, or you might get Tuesday, and in my experience, people didn't have a problem with that, as long as they could work an alternate work schedule, which is what we're trying to do for them, and that is awesome. But from a public's perspective of shutting down on Fridays, it's difficult. Very, and we don't have any data either.
Yeah, unfortunately, we did not track the data, you know, in the winter or spring this past year. All I can say is that we've reached out to the municipalities, you know, they haven't had a problem with going to the schedule. And then I guess you just talk to our employees and they say it's dead Friday afternoons. We don't have a lot of people calling and scheduling 3 p.m. meetings on Fridays, just.
Can we consider having a phone number forwarded and rotating that?
Yeah,
I'm
and
worried
we-
about the impact. We don't know what the impact's gonna be, and it's hard to make this decision. I don't know.
And I guess when we're talking about issues and responding to concerns, I guess, like, what are we talking about for emergencies? Like police and fire, we have obviously know who to call for that. So I guess what are the services that we think we're missing out on Friday afternoon?
Like you said, a tree down?
Water mains?
Everything else the City Hall does.
Everything else?
Pay a parking ticket, get a permit, meet with an inspector, right? I mean, you want to meet with the clerk's office, liquor license, I mean, dog license, cat license.
Yep. All
Every
those-
service City Hall provides, right?
Yep.
And that's where, like, as I said what I said in the beginning, I'm almost kind of like walking back that a little bit, because I'm thinking about, okay, even if you've got one or two people that are covering, but the person you need to talk in your specific area is not here, you're still not gonna get what you
Right.
need, right? So
Need
it's,
the coverage.
So I guess if we had alternative schedules and we could alternate who's
Right.
on Friday and who isn't, you'd have the same problem because the person might not be here because that's their Friday to be off. Whereas if you have consistent hours and schedules, you know who's gonna be here and who isn't based on that.
Like
Yeah,
dog
it-
licenses.
I think, and I don't wanna speak for the group, Joe, but I think maybe a little bit, at least what I'm feeling, maybe others too, I don't know, but it's, you know, this is something that's being asked of us, and then of course we go to council next week, and it's like we have to do this now in order to continue it a week from now. And we feel like we're missing maybe a good analysis, right, and the impact that this might have. And so that's where, like, broadly speaking, like, I see the value, 100%, right? I think I have maybe, you know, some questions, which we all did. You know, one of the questions to me that maybe I don't think I asked is, would employees be required to participate in this?
Not necessarily. That's part of the flexibility with our employees that have, you know, childcare and things like that.
Right.
They could work different hours. As long as we have coverage between those core hours that were open to the public, people could work different schedules.
Okay, because to me, there's two things going on here, right? One is that the question came up about polling staff. Well, that's where that would come into play, right? Do they want this? But then the other part is, how do we interact with the public? And I think that's the part that, again, is just really hard. And to some extent, I want to trust staff, right? When they tell us that, hey, we see limited engagement on Friday afternoons. But I think some people want to maybe trust but verify even, you know, so it's, and I think, you know, with that short window, I think that's where maybe, if we're having this conversation at committee level, I think you'll see this at council level. And so where my gut is rather than seeing this fail, like, I still think that there's merit in the idea, and I think there's probably gonna be some unanswered questions yet. And I wonder, and I appreciate that, like, let's not do this for 2 months and then try to bring it up again. But January 1st also seems like a comfortable start time for something like this. So I'm wondering if maybe we refer it back to staff, work out some of these questions, these issues. Is there a plan maybe that can be brought forward to provide coverage on Friday afternoons, but still provide some flexibility? I feel like I'd rather almost refer to staff and give you an opportunity to really build the case for this, rather than see it fail. I mean, is that kind of like a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think it is. You know, I think the mayor touched on this. I mean, a lot of it is recruitment and retention. You know, other municipalities in this area have moved to that schedule, so it's not like it's a surprise to the public. And also, I think it's tough because it's one of those things where, how much data do you need? I mean, you
Well,
kind
we
of
have-
know the issue, right? The issue is, you think the public won't have service Friday afternoon. So what data are we gonna show for that one person, one Friday,
Yeah.
that doesn't have service?
I agree, and I think you can overanalyze certain issues, and this feels like one of those to me. But like I said, my fear right now is if you just kind of try to push this through the way that it is, I'm not sure that it's going to go.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong, but
And I think the intent was to bring it to the committee to get your feelings on it and see where we're going. Because what is the data you want? What is it, you know, that you think you would need to make a better decision? That's what we brought it here today. So I'm glad we had this conversation, and we can bring more data and more information. But it's gonna be hard. I mean, if the holdback is someone's not gonna have service Friday afternoon, I don't think you're ever gonna solve that, right? Like, someone's always gonna think we're open, no matter how many years it's out. So we kind of have to be comfortable with, these are the hours, this is great for recruitment and retention, it's good for morale. The public is gonna be made aware of what the hours are, and this is a service we provide online, and can mail in your licenses, things like that, so. But yeah, we can bring back more information.
I think I would just like to hear more solutions as far as a phone number, or did I, and I apologize, did we say there's in the works filing like licenses online, like a pet license, to kind of alleviate, okay, because I think finding a solution, I think there's a way to make this work for everybody, but I want to make sure that our residents have a solution before, that way, because who's going to get called when they step in on Friday afternoon? We are. So we're going to take that, but it'd be nice for us to say, that's actually available online. Are you aware of requests for service? But again, I said not everybody has online. But I think kind of thinking of those things would make this easier to approve.
Yep.
So just say, I'm not going to officially make the motion. It's probably not.
I make the motion to refer back to staff.
Well, what I was going to say, though, I was going to maybe include, right, like with a plan for implementation effective January 1. Because then I think we've got like a clock, we understand what we're working towards. But it also, Joe, puts you in a position to understand what outstanding issues maybe need to be resolved and in what time frame, right? And then January 1st, like I said, to me feels like a comfortable time to still pull, to kind of have a switch over, right?
And give notice to the public.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not there.
This isn't easy for us.
I'm not there.
You don't like the January
As you
1st.
say,
I don't-
like you
from
just
a
said,
reception
you're looking for our
perspective,
feedback.
Yep.
And our feedback is, there's some resistance, or there's some questions. And at the same time, I want to retain good employees, and I think I've been pretty vocal about doing everything we can to retain those
Yep.
employees. At the same time, I have to answer to the people
Yes.
that I represent. And like Brian said, taking a survey, you're just gonna get those people that are bitter that someone's gonna get Friday afternoon off, and so they're gonna say, bull, So, that makes sense that we don't necessarily look at that kind of data. But at the same time, getting this and then having to make a decision that's gonna take effect in a week and a half gives us no time to do anything. I would have appreciated this like the meeting before or the one before that. And I understand you got a lot on your plate, but at the same time, that makes it hard for us to make a decision today. So I'm on board the referral with a date of January 1st to implement. I think that gives you the ability to let your employees know that there is this marker out here that we're working towards, and if this happens, this is when it's gonna happen.
If, or is it going to happen?
Yeah, if it
It
is,
still
right,
has to be
absolutely.
approved.
Yeah,
Because refer to staff comes back to us with
Yeah.
their plan and their,
absolutely.
Yeah.
But, if you're looking at the employees know that council can make it
There's
by this date. And if they wanna reach out to us, they certainly can reach out to us. And I'm willing to listen.
can I ask, does every department, as far as like the labor departments, take fire and police out because that's unique, but DPW, parks, do they all have, or mechanics even, do they all have the option to work 4 10-hour days?
I don't know if they all do. I think certain divisions or certain groups do, but I don't think they all do across the board.
But the people who don't are typically done by 2, 3 o'clock, so they are done early. So as far as school pickup, okay, I just want to make sure that we are thinking through. I understand we can't treat all employees exactly the same, that I'm not asking for, but I want to make sure that there is some flexibility offered and they do have some opportunity to, work a 4 10-hour day or 4 10-hour day shifts, or be done by 2 o'clock because they went in earlier and got all the work done. So I want to make sure we're not forgetting about those departments.
The departments that, like in operations?
Yeah, like, that don't have the option to work from home, DPW, parks, stuff like that. That we are providing some sort of flexibility in that schedule. It may not be the same, but there's an option there.
Yeah, I'll continue to talk to directors about that, and, I'm pretty certain that before we had like flexible schedules with our city hall employees, pretty much all of those departments had alternative work arrangements, like
Okay.
410s and 4.9s, prior to city hall having those schedules. So, but we'll make sure that there's some consistency with departments, and also that they are having those arrangements with.
I also think that you need to find out about the other 300 to 400 employees that would be impacted. And not, because what is that doing to that employee morale?
Well, that's what I was
Yeah.
saying with the
Okay.
flex schedule. Do they have some sort of flexibility? So I want to make sure there's that flexibility across the board. It may not look the same, but the option is there.
Yeah, and I think Director Ditchite and Director Grenier have done a very good job of providing flexibility for those employees in
Okay.
previous years.
As Director Falls indicated, operations staff and parking staff with Department of Public Works have had altered work schedules much longer than City Hall has. So they were the ones who pioneered it.
Okay.
The individual who got up and spoke does not speak for, nor does he represent, the DPW Labor Association.
And we understand that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
we get that.
I'm more looking at the full picture. I want to make sure there's not resentment towards other workers. we already have a hard enough time. I mean, when we talked at budget last year about, I was getting a little off topic, but, you know, what we're paying mechanics versus, you know, we have to look at all these things, and I understand they're not all the same, but I just don't want to ignore certain areas is all.
One of the things that I think if a referral does pass here, that, Joe, that I think would be worthwhile to start looking at too, and Mayor, maybe the timing of it works well with budget coming up, is what, you know, what does a staffing solution look like from a customer service center experience, right? Like is it something where an employee or two could be trained that could reasonably handle 90% of the requests that come in to City Hall? So that way, right, we've talked about that they're not running all over City Hall, where you can concentrate that. I don't know if it's practical. I think you guys are way better positioned, right, to do that analysis. But I think with this motion, it makes sense to kind of maybe bring that in, because in a hypothetical, let's say you hire 2 people and you're going to staff hours, you could alleviate some of the concerns here, right? If you've got that level of staffing that's always going to cover that front desk that handles 90% of the concerns, maybe that's part of the solution. I don't know. But-
Yeah, I think that sounds like a great idea. I mean,
Well, that's what we've been driving towards.
Right.
You know, And you
Yeah.
mentioned the first floor of City Hall and some of the renovations that'll be ongoing there. I mean, that is the thinking, right? Is
Mhm.
that it'll be more of a one-stop shop. And I mean, that is absolutely the direction that we want to go with
Yeah.
customer service, is
Mhm.
having people trained on the front lines that can, if they can't answer the question, they know
Mhm.
how to get the answer for the resident.
Because then it makes that January 1st, you know, timing even more palatable.
so do we have a solid motion for staff? I mean,
I think Kathy made the motion to refer to staff. I
To
think-
refer to staff to evaluate plans for a potential future implementation date
Of January.
of January 1st.
all right.
I'll second that.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously.
You're behind the tape. Usually do. Sometimes you got it. Yeah.
On to informational. Report of routine personal actions. Does anyone have any questions on that? All right, our next meeting is September 10th, 2024. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in
Second.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes unanimously.
You gotta get to the so moved as fast.